issues. What is the root cause of anxiety, depression, and the host of mental health issues that we see in this book right here? As a therapist and person with lived experience, I've never talked with somebody who had mental health issues and didn't have a story to back it up. What I mean by that is there was often some adverse childhood experience that never quite healed. These are the core wounds that shape our sense of self early in life and are reinforced throughout our childhood and teen years that then give us this feeling like we're never quite comfortable in our skin. During the first 2 years of life, our brain is rapidly developing, taking in all kinds of information from the environment. It's like wet putty being molded. And during that time, these core wounds are like scars that then harden. And if during that time there was chronic, repeated injury like neglect, rejection, stress, fear that we absorbed from our caretakers or lack thereof and the environment around us, well, that wet clay starts to harden throughout life and keeps that shape. Then, as a kid, as a teen, as an adult, there's this chronic sense of something's not right. People don't really like me. I'm afraid folks are going to leave. I just don't feel safe. I've got to prove my worth. I have to earn my love. And as an adult, we logically try to rethink this behavior, tell ourselves it's not true. But for some reason, it's so hard to let go of that feeling. And we find ways to overcompensate, to numb, distract, to run away, to hide from this feeling. It's almost like having a shoulder injury early in life that never fully heals and sometimes gets even worse. So then in our 20s, 30s, 40s, and our 80s, we can't quite move it the way we want to. That wound from early in life is still showing up. Now, it's easy to look at our shoulder and see, that's the problem. It was this thing that I can point to. But it's different with mental health, with our emotional response that shapes and defines our inner experience. Not so easy to separate that damage from our true personality. Fortunately, there is a way to heal. The animating force in our bodies wants that healing, and we can adopt mindsets and lifestyle practices that support that healing force and allow us to reshape that clay, to heal those core wounds, and step into the fullness of our being, that true, authentic nature has been waiting to come out all along. These core wounds take place before we even knew how to talk. So, talk therapy alone or thinking differently, just telling ourselves to be happy that it isn't real, doesn't quite work, at least on its own. These memories and conditioned pattern of emotional responses are stored in the non-linguistic parts of the brain. Instead, they register as experiences in the body, feeling empty, like we're falling, like there's some void that we can't quite express. It's just there. And even during the good times, it's quietly humming in the background. Some of you may have heard of the book, The Body Keeps the Score. So our approach to healing has to go beyond the thoughts that we tell ourselves and into the body and the emotional experience. After we learn how to talk, we start to connect beliefs to that feeling. And throughout life, engaging with the world around us, those beliefs get reinforced. So those troublesome thoughts like, I'm not good enough, everyone's gonna leave, I'm a terrible person, nobody loves me, are really the echoes of hardship from earlier in life. And healing happens when we change that story, change that feeling, and access our biology to change and heal that too. This chronic stress and attachment injury from our caretakers causes increased size of our amygdala, the smoke alarm, the threat detector of our brain. It also impairs the function of our hippocampus, which is largely responsible for our memories are like snapshots of things that are important. They're emotionally charged, and we bring them back when we face not the same situation, but something similar. So this threat detector is really sensitive. It pulls from our memory to see, hey, what's something that happened like this before? And then triggers the stress response. This fight or flight feeling of freeze. The stress response, which you've probably heard before, comes in the forms of fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. So of all the ways that something can remind us of the many things that happened throughout childhood, trigger that memory, and provoke that stress response. We start getting aggressive, we try to escape the problem, we shut down, or try to impress and people please. And during these formative years, if we're used to being in stress, then those systems get really strong and start to dominate our everyday functioning. I want to take a moment here to offer some grace and redemption because those early experiences, the attachment injuries, and the stress of our environment probably came from a caretaker, a parent, family members who lived through the same kinds of things, sometimes even worse. And they had trouble regulating and tuning into their kids' emotional needs because they were having trouble taking care of their own. This mental health field is really quite young. There's a lot that we're figuring out. And looking in the past at how we dealt with this, we're dealing with it a lot better today. And but there's still many ways that we have to grow as a field to address the issues, the suffering, the problems that as a society we've inherited from the generations before us. So this isn't to play the victim. This isn't to blame mommy or daddy or our neighborhood or society. Instead, it's to say that we have an injury that we're treating the symptoms for and not necessarily that root cause. So, how do we do this? The first thing is to recognize that top down healing, just healing those thoughts, only goes so far. There's three areas that are vital to. We need to change that story, but we also need to look at the emotional response and focus more on the bottom up healing and helping our body to learn different responses by supporting the needs that it has to experience that deep healing. There's a lot of ways we can do this. Investing in quality sleep, healthy movement. There's lots of cool new modalities coming out that there's more and more research behind things like dancing, stretching, yoga, getting out in nature, doing art therapy. There's lots of new and exciting research on somatic healing to help our bodies relearn ways to respond to stress from our environment. If you'd like me to make a video covering those practices for that deep emotional healing, please leave a comment below. We can also start to understand that emotional response, the feeling in our body like something's not quite right, as a flare up of that old original injury. And almost get down on one knee and comfort that inner child that's still stuck in there, feeling unsafe, feeling unheard, and remind ourselves this isn't, and start to mentally detach the story from the feeling, from the situation. In those moments when that feeling gets stronger, pause and start to check in with your body and label those physiological responses. My chest is feeling tight. My breathing's shallow. I feel like I'm sinking. Mentally register that detachment from the response can give us the mental space to then care for our bodies. Let's breathe a little more deeply. Ooh, I notice my posture change. The muscles in my face are getting really tight. Let me relax them. And then come back to the present and see what this situation really is. You know what? This bill is gonna be a hit to our budget, but we'll get through this. We always do. It feels so overwhelming, all these tasks that I have. But maybe let me talk to my boss or my instructor, and I'll bet you they'll give me a little extension. If I buckle down, I'm sure I'll get through this. And as those beliefs continue to surface, people don't want me around, they're gonna leave, I'm not good enough. You know the story. Or whatever those are for you. Take every opportunity to mentally register and internalize evidence to the contrary. Man, I thought this friend was gonna leave me, but they didn't. I feel like I'm not good enough and nobody wants me around, but people keep telling me that they do. And the more we emphasize and highlight evidence contrary to that story, it helps us stack up the evidence and slowly heal that belief. Old wounds have been there for a long time, and it's important to the healing process will also take time. Let's be patient with ourselves. Let's be open to seeing where that healing can happen and where it already has. These wounds, in a big way, are generational. Our parents did the best they could. We're doing the best we can. And with all the progress that the mental health field is making, all the resources around us, the new insights and answers to these old questions, we have a beautiful opportunity to be the generation of cycle breakers so our kids and their kids can have a different story, a new experience. Just imagine where that could go. All the ways that we deal with those feelings, the addictions, the blowing up and boiling over, the running away, the distraction, the bitterness, the resentment, these are survival responses. And they aren't our fault, but they are our responsibility. We've got to do the work, every one of us. In my heart of hearts, I'm pretty sure no one made it through. In my heart of hearts, I'm fairly convinced that nobody makes it through childhood unscathed, that we all carry these core wounds into our adulthood in some way, shape, or form. So it's on us to do the work, to be that generation that shifts the narrative, heals that inner child, and creates space for the next generations to experience a sense of freedom. And along the way, we will too. If this message resonated with you and you'd like to support the work of helping people experience breakthrough in mental health and substance use recovery, do me a favor. Share this video with someone who might benefit from it. That's all for now. I'll see you in the next one.